Howdy y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Cape Fear Scene, and in today's episode, as you can guess by the title, we're going to be floating some stuff that wasn't able to be floated or synced in the past. So if you enjoy Paleo content, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and give this video a thumbs up. That way more people can learn how to do this. And comment to help for the algorithm and whatnot. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into this, shall we? So, what you need for this trick is literally just you need these terraces. I like the medium ones the best because they give you the most height and they allow you to walk up them. And yes, I'm doing this on the Switch, so this is console friendly. Um, and from what I've had on stream at twitch.tv/kfearscene, we were experimenting with this over the weekend, and PC players seem to be able to do it as well. And so what you want to do is when we're going to start off with floating. So just to keep it simple, I'm going to take these yard work pieces, these terraces, and I'm going to stack them up 3 high because that's as high as I'm doing this for the sake of the video. You can go as high as you want, though I hear the higher you go, the more risk you have of basically things teleporting to the front of your plot up here. So go as high as you want to risk it. If things mess up, you probably will just have to redo it. But what you want to do is you want to go as high as you want, but you want to make sure, especially if you're on the console, since we don't have the jump option, that you put these at a slope. You see how we can just kind of walk up this like this? It's it's a little weird, but you can actually do that. So that's what we're going to do. So in order to float things, what we're going to do is we're going to place our next terrace down on the ground. And then what you want to do is you want to item cancel this. On consoles, you just, jump, you do, hang on, I messed up. You got to do the typical item cancel. If you don't know how to item cancel, I will have that video linked into the description for those on the console. But you want to item cancel it so where you're free running this and you have options down for your inventory. And now we're just going to casually run up here. And then we are going to set this down and you're just going to place the item. And for this case, we're going to float this thing. So then we B to cancel it out and then you place it back again, okay? So we're going to place it like this, and then we are going to remove these. So now we have basically a floating terrace here with the item on top, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to hot plots. So we're going to go over here to my gold bar because it was a plot I made a while ago and it doesn't have a lot of things on it, so it's a quick load for me. Sometimes when you're hopping plots on the consoles, especially on the Switch, it takes a hot minute. So now I'm just going to hop back to my plot that I do all of my experimental stuff on, and I do a lot of the recording on. And as you can see, this has moved back to where it previously was, and now this thing is floating in the air. Sorry, that's my puppy. He's pretty active in the morning, so bear with me. But, and now you move, now the terrace basically becomes the anchor for this. So you can basically pick it up and you can move the terrace wherever you want this thing to float. And pretty much you can do this for most ground-based items. Some items are a little wonky, but for the most part, most of it goes pretty smooth. So just to show you a different example, we're going to do it one more time. So we're going to place these up, and you can do this any particular direction. I just like going it this way because, I like it to look good in my mind. So having them all pretty straight like this kind of works well with my neatness and my OCD. So now we're going to place this down. And as before, we're going to item cancel. Whoops. Did not do that correctly. There we go. We're going to item cancel. And now we're just going to run up the hill or walk up this hill. And now we're going to place it with any item. And now we're going to place this thing. Because, you know, I like the idea of making a sky bridge. So, and as per usual, we're going to get rid of these three. So now it's just a floating piece like that. And we're going to hop back over and then hop back. So now I'm just hopping back over to my gold bar because it's just the quickest load. Because I literally made this plot to like trap people in a box when they went on a tour. And people toured my plot for like 2 months. That was like the only plot I put up just so I could trap people in a box. But at any rate, so we're moving back to my play slot. And we're going to load back in here. Takes it a minute for things to load on the Switch, so you know how we be. And as you can see now, this little Bridge-O is now floating in the air. You know, and if you want to add to it, you can easily add to it. At least typically, depending on how high you do it from. You might have some issues being this far to the ground, but... Okay, I'm probably too low to actually add on to it. I probably actually would have to climb up there to do that, but... Oh, nope. There it was. Sometimes it's all about getting the right angle. See? And you can literally build a sky bridge if you want, you know? Just build a floating bridge in the sky. I know these pieces in particular was a lot of people were asking me how to float these because everybody had been struggling with it. So these are what actually has inspired this and actually helped me discover this. But yeah, so you can float the builder bridge pieces. As I said, you can literally float anything. You can float trees. You can float an umbrella. You can float multiple things on this. Just to give you that example. I'm giving a couple of examples for each one just to show off, so. Now, I do say the further high you go, floating trees do get a little wonky. I've had trees teleport to up here on the front of the property. So be wary on floating trees. They might be a little funky at times. They might mess up a bit. So I definitely wouldn't recommend floating trees, but technically you can. So as you can see, I'm item canceling again. Now we're running back up again for the final time. And we're going to place it. And now that we're up here, I'm going to place this umbrella, show that you can float the umbrella. And I'm going to place this tree to show you that, yes, you can float a tree. So now we're going to remove all of these. And yet again, we're hopping plots. It's a lot of plot hopping. So now we're just going to let it load back in. There we go. Now we'll hop back over. And let things load in for a moment. And as you can see, this umbrella and this tree are both, in fact, floating. And they both are now linked. So you can link multiple things to the same anchor, as you can see here. So now we have that thing floating. So now let's go about syncing. Because yes, you can sync items as well. So Sinking works kind of the same way, just slightly different. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack them 3 high for what I'm going to sink first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this here, and I'm going to item cancel the one on top. And then we're going to move it to the ground. Obviously, the further you move from the initial spot is how far away the anchor will be from the items you want to sink. So, once we get that point, now we'll put the items we want to sink here. So in this case, I'm going to put here these mushrooms, and I'm going to put in the bird tree, the silver wing nest, as well as this tree, just to show you some examples, you know. Now, as you can tell, these you can't pick up because they're all technically linked together for now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hop plots again, and we're going to wait for it to load in. Okay, and now we're going to hop back over again. And now that we've hopped plots back and forth, we'll come back over here, let everything load in, because everything being kind of slow. And as you can see, these are now basically floating. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this top one that they're linked to. And as you can see now, they've all sunken into the ground. And I love this because I love this tree. I just didn't like all of these, you know, the big old stuff around it. So now we have just a tree. You can get the mushrooms a bit closer down to the ground. You can get the silver wing into the ground, you know. And now you can actually remove these because they are no longer connected. And just to show you a fun example, you can actually sink trees down as well to make some fun, unique looking bushes. These you tend to have to go a bit higher. So what we're going to do is we're going to place quite a few of these down. I think we're going to do up to like 5 of them probably. Well, they want to place. My switch acting up this morning. And these you can actually stack up, but I like the idea of being able to run up them still to control height stuff, because sometimes heights can be a little wiggy on the Switch, so I'm gonna do this one 5 high. Now, as I said, floating trees does have a bit of an issue, and this item, sinking this item, the pixie item that you get from the Elderwoods, that one's also given me some trouble. But, you know, we're able to make it work, so now I'm stacking this 5 high, and so now I'm going to item cancel this top one. And we're going to place it down here on the ground. And we're going to set it. And now I'm going to move this tree and put it on top of it. Actually, I'm just going to put it from my inventory just to be on the safe side. I think you can just move it on top, but just to be on the safe side, I like to place it out of my inventory. And yet again, for the bazillionth time, we're going to be popping slots. And we're going to wait for it to load in. If we just keep loading. Now we're going to hop back over to the slot we were previously on. And as you can see, the tree's back over here. And if we grab this one back on top, it should be linked to our tree. And now we move it into the ground. And now we've sunken this tree really far into the ground. If I would have probably did it 6 high, you would have probably had your turned your tree into a nice little bush. And I think that's pretty cool. You can also sink the fences. As I said, you can also even do the grow out furnace. You can do the big grow out dome, though you need one of these bigger ones. And I don't think I can place this on top. Oh, I can. Sweet. So I don't have to redo anything. Give me a moment. Let me find that. Let me find that sweet spot again. See if I can angle that right. Let me walk up this edge real quick. Like, you did it just for a sec. Oh, there it was. Sometimes it's just all about practicing and just finding the right angle. You can see now we got that big one, so we're going to item cancel this big thing. And we're going to find a spot to put it in. That will give us plenty of space, because this thing's huge, so there we go. And now we're going to place it. And now we're going to place our dome. Now, I probably should have done this one a bit closer to the ground, to be fair. But, it's fine. It'll work. So now we're going to hot plots one last time. This will be the last example I show you all. I know this video is getting pretty long, so... Now we are going to hop back over for the last time. Now we're waiting for everything to load in. As you can see, that thing's floating a little bit, but we're going to move these out of the way. Move this tree out of the way. And yes, you can move things to where you have technically the stuff off the plot if you move it right. But, so now we're going to grab our big dome, or our big piece. And as you can see, the grow out piece has now been sunken into the ground, so you can now make a smaller one. Now, I did it slightly too high, so now I can't walk inside. But as you can see, it's clearly sunken into the ground. So, you can now sink trees, float things that previously could not be floated. Any ground-based item can technically now be floated, as long as you do this technique. So, as I said, sometimes it might be a little wonky, and sometimes they might appear up here at the front of your plot in your driveway. If that happens, you might just have to redo it. It could be a connection issue. As I said, I do know floating the trees sometimes does have a little wonkiness to it. And the best way to check it is to actually leave the plot and come back in. So just for the sake of seeing if that happens or not, we're going to leave the plot and come back in. But don't worry, I'm not going to have you on these loading screens. I'm going to do a quick jump to me loading back into the plot. Okay, now we're outside, so now we're going to hop back in. See, and as you can see here, the tree moved to the front of the plot, specifically the floating tree. This is why I wanted to do it, to show you all this example. So sometimes they do mess up, and this is not the most stable glitch. I definitely would recommend not floating trees and not floating or floating or sinking this one and the Kitsu item. The Pixie item, the Kitsu item, both have issues, and I would definitely not recommend floating trees, at least on the Switch. It doesn't seem to have issues on the PC, and I did have issues with the well as well, so... But yeah, everything else seems to be pretty stable and seems to stay. So that's why I wanted to do that reset, to show you guys that yes, it does mess up from time to time and you might have to redo it. And I definitely recommend not floating trees, but you can have that option if you so desire. But at any rate, So I hope you guys have fun and play around with this new glitch and let me know all the things you have been doing with it. And until the next video, I will see you guys later. Bye!